Hey guys, what is going on? I got Primus in my head lately. I think it's just silliness in general. But I'm going to gear up here on some artwork this morning. Give me a second here to get my social medias set up, and we'll get things bouncing here in just a moment. Am I live? I'm not quite live yet, so I'm going to keep doing the social media posting until that comes through. And once it does, we'll do our formal kickoff here for the day. We got maybe another few buttons to press here before we get things in gear. So almost there, staying on target. Almost there. If you're catching this in the future, you can skip ahead like maybe a minute, and I'll get into the thick of what we're doing. Hey, I'm live again. Let's see if I can hear myself. Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3. Hey, I'm live again. Seems like my microphone level is off. Hey, I'm live again. Seems like my microphone level is off. Okay, that sounds pretty good. We'll drop that down. And did I finish posting what I had going on? Okay, cool. So let's see. Almost there without despair. Bop, 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 bop. I think I'm done with my posting. My mouse has just been cantankerous lately. And that whenever I jump to a new window, it gets fidgety, like it doesn't know what I'm talking about. Come on, baby. There you go. Okay, cool. Hey, my name is Theurgy. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish online. And we're creating an adventure for the Eberron campaign setting using 5th edition mechanics. I've been a DM since 1987. I've been an Eberron enthusiast since 2006. I've been a professional freelance artist since 1999, and I've been creating content for Dungeons & Dragons in 5th edition on the DMsGuild since 2017. And this is going to be the first adventure that we're publishing, so I'm really excited about this. Crystals of Mabar is for 4 to 5 characters of level 7 to 8. If you want to do everything in the book, you could start them off at 6th level if you start at the absolute beginning of it and work through all the content along the way. This book cover we create around episode 40. Let me fix my screen. That should have it fixed. Okay, good. See, look how my mouse bounces around. It's weird. But I'm on the X Twitter platform, at Theurgy, if you want to get coupons, notifications when I'm live. Take a look at all the artwork that I produce here on stream and other stuff. Be welcome to tag along here at Theurgy, online here on YouTube. Like, subscribe it. New subscribers, thanks a lot, guys. Like, subscribe, bell icons, get notifications of when we are going to be live in the future. This book cover we created back around episode 40, and we're at currently episode 322. Here's the full playlist of all the creatures, maps, items, NPCs that we've created along the way. And now we're doing layouts. Once those complete, we'll be dropping the actual pages of the book into Photoshop. And then painting directly on the pages, and when that's all done, we'll be sealing it all up into a PDF and then putting it up on DMsGuild. So this is where we are at today. I think what I can do at this point is take this block here and let's duplicate the group. I don't need to do it that way. I can. There we go. We can drop this together here. Jalen here is the mayor of the Thorpe named Peace. No, sorry. Yeah, Peace. Where the adventure begins, and asks for your help. We're going to merge these layers down so it's a single layer, and I get to delete the color stuff surrounding the space. Again, we still have it duplicated here, so I'm just making this. Oops. Good to go. So, yep, here we're going to do some refinement here, just to trim this stuff down and the final rendering is what we'll be doing here right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then their thumb is out of view, so we can take this and push it up like that. Blend this in. So we did the line art here. We did the line art, and then we went through the coloring process to peel this apart, like the different color layers for the piece as we went through it. Just stacking up the colors of the garment off of the references that we used. And we have that all in a little folder here. We have our trash folder. We have the black and white only. There we go. Okay, cool. So black and white is for easy printing. So we'll have a zip file full of that. And then all these color tokens will be for virtual tabletop and inserted into the book as artwork itself. Sorry, I spaced out there for a second. Not really sure what happened there. Stitch as a glitch. But right now I'm cleaning up the line art and making the line art and the texture from the lines blend in better to the color of the character. So we'll be doing this for a bit. Actually, cuffs here seem to be conforming around their wrists more. There, that feels good. There. Doing a bit of blend work just to make this all work together a little bit more. Get rid of some of the texturing effects in here. I can just clean them up a little bit. So I stream 10 times per week, Monday through Friday in the mornings like this. I'm creating artwork for whichever book I have on my work docket. This Eberron Adventure is my primary production piece right now. So I work on the artwork and the layouts, and it's basically I have multiple books that are being built right now on my workbench, and as when a new the process for making a book is ideation, initial mechanical or what like proof of concept to see that the stuff that I'm thinking about works or not. Once we get to a theoretical model, we go into some play testing to see if it works well. If it does, then we stop play testing and build the book. And like all the mechanics that go in, like the core, like the proof works. So now let's bash it out. So then we get the actual design work to flesh out the entire concept, all the mechanics and stuff. Once that gets, once that preliminary model is completed, then we go back into playtesting and see, you know, what do we break and how do we fix it, and like what we're doing with martial powers right now, for example. And once we get through that process, we revise the mechanical discoveries that the playtesting revealed to us, and once we get the iterative playtesting from there resolved, we go into production. So then we clean up the text. I hire an editor to do a second pass on the text. Once the edits come back, I drop it into Microsoft Word to begin processing page layouts and build all the art assets that will be needed for the project. And once that's complete, then we take the page art from Word and we drop it into Photoshop here to create all the actual page art that will be visible. Like we put it all together, reload it into Word and in proper positioning, and then seal it up and sell it. So right now we are in the process. We've ran multiple playtests for this adventure, and I've had 3 different DMs run the adventure separately themselves, and so the thing is good to go. And we finished. So we took the revisions that were suggested from the playtesting and pulled everything in, and now I'm doing the layouts. And after that, I will do the art. So as something moves from ideation into playtesting, that allows me to queue forward something new for me to start working on ideation with. And as it goes through the playtesting process and comes out the other end successfully, then we again do the actual text work. So once so I can basically do one book, and I can do one idea. I can have one set of playtesting. I can have one book, and then I have one book in production. In the mornings, I will do the artwork for whatever book is currently in production. And once that gets finished, it moves off to being sold, and then whatever was coming out of playtesting goes into production. And that comes forward, and that becomes my Monday through Friday morning project. And so my Monday through Friday is books that are next to be published. The Tuesday and Friday lunches, my lunch streams like today, we do ideation and mechanical design. And then on Mondays and Thursday nights, I do ideation, potentially on a different concept, and then Saturday morning is my workbench. So I could work on ideation, I could work on book production, I could do playtesting, I could do commissions for third parties. So my Saturday morning workbench is basically whatever I want to do. Let's do that. That feels pretty good. This is an 80 family village that the adventure is in orbit around. So a level of grittiness is to be assumed for the NPCs in this frontier farming area. That's why I'm okay with the level of grittiness in the fabric that's being seen. I don't like those lines though. I can get rid of those here in color and keep them in the black and white. I'm gonna do that. So I'm taking the texture from the sketches and I overlay it on the color, and then I blend it together to add extra like folds and grit and like potential filigree and decoration prompts is what all the line art ends up producing for me. That's my 20-minute timer to make sure that I don't get lost inside of any tangents or get hyper fixated on somebody's hand or something like that. So the 20-minute timer helps pull me out of the flow state to keep in mind, because I got to go to my day job after this. So we wake up, we put on some coffee. It is time for a sip of coffee. We wake up, we put on some coffee. Blah. Good coffee. Wake up, get some coffee, start my day with creativity. It helps prevent me from lamenting being at a day job, right? Because I mean, who wouldn't want to be an artist for a living? Well, potentially me. I haven't sorted out that I like my day job. It provides me a lot of secure income for me to be able to have the luxury of doing artwork like this. Granted, I don't get to do artwork as much a day as I would want. I'm not the person that is doing this full time. I don't put in 10 hours a day into this as a business. It's more like 4 or 5 hours a day as a passionate hobby. So I have to pace myself a little bit slower and allow the reality of me being like a role-playing game company or like a design studio or something evolve to where it can be real, because that's not the sort of thing you can just change your mentality about how you do your workflow and then blip, I have a successful business now. It's like, no, I need to walk into this very, very delicately so that I can preserve the most important thing is that I'm having fun while I'm doing the books, because if they feel like a job, it's no longer a reprieve from my job, you know? So it's a real struggle for me, and I use that as an excuse to hide from doing all the production stuff of like page dressing and promo and all that other stuff that could be going into the artwork that I build. Hey, what's up, Sneaky? Thanks. Yeah, it really helps make sure that I keep my shit together. So small tips. I use them during game as well. I'll have a 30-minute or depending on the game, like a 30-minute timer or an hour timer. That's making that's helping me stay on course with what I have planned for an adventure. It's like, ooh, this took 20 minutes longer than I expected it to. Maybe I want to reduce the amount of tactical issues for the next random encounter, or skip it maybe, just to stay in tempo with what I'm expecting to get to. How you doing this morning, Sneaky? So I'm going to be back on today for lunch to continue with Martial Powers design. We did the Barbarian last night, and so today I built the core chassis, rebuilt it for Martial Powers, but now there's the 4 subclasses, right? So today at lunch we'll be looking at and updating the Martial Powers book with the official 2024 Barbarian subclasses. And it's truly an hour lunch, like maybe an hour and 10 minutes, but it's pretty strict on time. So I probably won't get all 4 subclasses done in the hour. It's possible I could, but unlikely. So what'll most likely happen is I'll come back around on Saturday morning tomorrow and finish up the Barbarian, and then get started in on. We've already done a lot of work on the Fighter, but we'll be finishing up the Fighter. That'll take us into the Monk. So tomorrow morning we could potentially get through the Fighter and the Monk. And then when we come back on Monday, I actually have Monday off because I'm going to the dentist. And so when I do medical stuff in the real world that requires me to take time off of my day job, I take the entire day off to celebrate good decision making and going to the doctor and taking care of myself. So if I want a day off of work, I can schedule some sort of medical something to go do it, and then spend the rest of my day doing artwork and shit. So like today I'm going to have to be done at 8 o'clock. Like in Seattle, it's what, almost 7 now? So I've got basically an hour left this morning, but on Monday I won't have any time constraints. I can stay on as much as I want. The dentist is in the morning, so I'll go till 9 o'clock. If I am inspired to do, I'll stick around for an extra hour on Monday in the morning, and then we do design stream stuff. I said Tuesday, but it's either going to be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, depending on when my home table plays. So my current, like my home table, my like real life friends table are actually coworkers. We have a one day a week D&D game that we play at lunchtime, and there's I think it's like a West March of like 7 of us in different departments, and whoever's able to show up, as long as we have at least 3 people that show up, we'll play a game for an hour. And it's a very Cypher system-ish light tactical game. It's more about creativity and problem solving and interaction than long-winded combats. So it's not technically 5e, but it's more like a reverse Cypher system where all your challenges are on a scale of 1 to 10. And the characters are using, the players are rolling ability checks to resolve all the different challenges, whether they're combat or social engagement or traps, tricks, puzzles. It's all the system that we built is 100% ability checks. So you just roll 1 die and you get a result. It's very fast. There's no tactical maps or anything like that. It's all theater of the mind and very light illustration for exemplifying things. But I've never drawn a map. Like, we've been playing since February in this new campaign, and I've never drawn a map for it. The previous campaign was 4 co-workers, and we would typically have 2 or 3 would join us at any given time. We at one point had a roster of 5 players, but they started to bleed off over time, like changing jobs or responsibilities or whatever. The availability changed, but that was a level 1 to 20 campaign that used 5e mechanics. So it had the tactical battles and it had the mechanical depth of battle, and that was a challenge for us to do as a coworker once per week, like 1 hour per week game. I learned a lot about quick tempo games during the course of that process, but it was also exclusionary. So like it got so inbred. Like I don't know how many people out there, or you yourself, Sneaky, that have ran long form campaigns, but I've ran a number of campaigns. I think like 4 in 5th edition that have gone from level 1 to 20, and then in 3rd edition we played like level 18 to 28 for like 6 years. So I'm pretty used to playing high level adventuring, and it becomes very inbred over time. Like all the characters that are there, all the conflicts, like why are we here? Why are we doing it a certain way? Like these are all things that like the campaign itself builds over time based on the decisions that the players make. So if we're constantly adding new players in, you can't have a serial campaign where you've got like a 3-year grudge against this villain in the campaign. It was fun to do it, and my coworkers are Critical Role and World of Warcraft enthusiasts, and like, hey, we've heard of D&D, we never played before. Phil, I know that's your hobby. Tell us more. And so I ran a quick little improv game for them, and they're like, wow, this is awesome, let's do this all the time. And so it basically became a club at work, a lunchtime club. So Yeah, we either play on Mondays or typically on Mondays, Tuesdays, or Wednesdays. It depends on just who we can have scheduled. So we change it each week. It's typically Wednesdays right now. So normally I can, that'll be my lunchtime on whatever day of the week that is. And since it's typically Wednesday, that means I can typically assure that, I'll be here for Tuesday at lunch to do game design. And Monday's kind of a crapshoot depending on what I got going on. So I'm kind of wishy-washy on my lunchtime early in the week, but like my Friday stream, that's almost guaranteed. Like I like my Friday lunch, jumping online and doing some creative stuff, and then I go out and have fun with real life people, and then jump back into it Saturday morning to fuck around for a few hours, and then Saturday is pretty much a production day for me. So unless there's some sort of like friends and family thing that crops up. I stream for like 3 hours Saturday morning, and then I jump offline, grab some brunch, and come back into the computer for like another 4 or 5 hours worth of work. And then every other week I have a Curse of Strahd game that I run with my friends from back in 3rd edition. We play on Skype. We're 5th level in Curse of Strahd right now, playing 5e. And but if I don't have Curse of Strahd, then I'll basically put in another 4 or 5 hours worth of production before I log out for the rest of the weekend. Go have fun Saturday night, sleep in and mess around on Sunday, and then take the nap and then jump back into it Monday morning. So that's my work week. That's my schedule, and I've been sustaining that for a couple years now. So far, it's going pretty well, but I absolutely have to do artwork. It's impossible to stop the signal. It just pounds through me. I have to produce work. So so I started building books out of it, so I wouldn't have to compete in the freelance market against people with different far more generous low cost of living than I have, so I don't have to worry about competing for income. I was a freelance like a character artist for like maybe 6 months back in 2002. I gave it a go, and it was just absolutely pressure cooker for me. So I didn't enjoy it, so I stopped doing that. Got a factory job that allowed me to be off work 3 days a week. It was 4 days on, 3 days off schedule. So I worked that for a few years, and then just did like artwork and game stuff on the side with my days off, and that was wonderful. But it was unstable because it was a factory job. We'd get laid off, and that really soured me to the idea of looking at that as a quote-unquote stable career choice. So I got into advertising instead. Is you're always going to need salespeople, right? Advertising, marketing, that never ends. You don't lay those people off unless your business is going under, and then you got to find another job anyway. But for the most part, if you can get into a business with advertising, you've got a stable career. And most of those things are commission-based, so the harder you work, the more money you can make, assuming it has a generous enough commission structure. So that was something that I could stabilize with. And what's up? I think you're having, am I? You're cutting in and out, and you're a little quiet. Oh, hold on. Maybe you're right there. It could just be me being inconsistent. Let me see if everything's coming through at this point. It could just be me being inconsistent. Let me see if everything's coming through at this point. It could just be me being inconsistent. Yeah, okay, that sounds. At least that's there. If it continues to be unstable, keep me updated, would you? Sounds like a lot of fun. My dad wanted to start a campaign for a long time with me and the family, and we did a few years ago. Nice, but not a lot of us could find the time, unfortunately, and had to stop. Yeah, that's the kind of the compelling theme behind the ability check game that we've been developing. That it's light and loose, and we wanted to have a campaign that was episodic. That would be because there was a lot of people that were interested in. You guys are playing. What are you doing? So there's more and more interest, and we hired new people at the firm, and a lot of them are gaming enthusiasts. So our roster of interested people around the office is increasing, And so if I did another serial campaign after like 7 or 8 months, it's going to start to feel kind of exclusionary. And we have all these cool new people that are coming in. It's like, what a great way to cement people into your culture by having them play D&D with you once per week. You show up, you build camaraderie with your coworkers who you're going to have to lean on and support and count on anyway. It's fantastic corporate building. So I've really enjoyed that opportunity. But because the game is only an hour, it's forced me to adapt into like really fast and loose mechanics that are quick to allocate, judge, and be able to move forward. So every time somebody does something, it moves the story forward. And you only have basically, like, you get 1 die roll per turn. For whatever it is that you're attempting to do, you can roll 1 die and then you're done. So tell me what you want to do, make a die roll to do it. And whether you're successful or not, we'll hash out the results of that action, and then we'll move on to the next person on the team. So we roll initiative at the beginning of the session, and then we filter everybody into their relative positions. So we're always changing the order of initiative, but we maintain initiative for the entire session. And so, and since every player gets 1 die roll per turn, we go through the initiative order, and after everyone has taken a turn, then I, as the DM, takes a turn for the world. We call it the world turning. And so the world turns, and any kind, like after all the successes and failures of their individual actions are allocated, then I basically look at like how well has the team progressed or failed in their current activities with this round of action, and how does the world respond to that, and then that sets up the next challenge for the next round. So they do stuff, they make some progress, something goes wrong, creates a complication or something. Then I introduce what that complication is, and then they hash out that complication while continue working on the primary goal. If they completely ace the current goal that they're on, then great, you move past that plot point, and now let's move into the next challenge. And if that challenge they can't defeat it, then it starts creating complications. So the game cascades and is kind of spontaneous and improvised based on what they decide their goals are in the moment, and how successful are they at pursuing those goals, and how does that feed into the larger objective of the adventure for the session. And typically we'll get through, like I said, we only play for an hour a week. So them going through a dungeon, like they're going through an asteroid dungeon right now. They found the mining operation that the characters use as the backdrop for the source of plot hooks, right? They own this. The premise is that they're part of a mining operation that's extracting minerals from asteroids in orbit around the planet of Eberron, and these asteroids will fall to the Earth and potentially destroy cities if the asteroids aren't broken down to a point where they'll burn up on entry and atmosphere. And on top of it, if you're willing to send a crew up there to break down these asteroids to protect the citizens, every asteroid the team breaks up, they get a number of resources, like they get experience, or you can spend it on stuff, XCOM style. So they're motivated to break them down, and then on top of it, all the asteroids have minerals in them, like gold and platinum and copper and iron and stuff like that. So when they identify an asteroid that's en route to potentially threaten citizens on the planet, they send a mining crew to break it down, and once it breaks down, they gather all of the actual mineral from the rock and send it off to a refinery, and they get resources that way. So they gain experience, or like we call them resource points. So they get resource points from breaking down the materials and selling off the ore, on top of basically getting a stipend from the orbital defense guild. So it's like, you're breaking down rocks for us, protecting the planet. Congratulations! Here's extra resources to go along with your mineral refinery, because the the organization is in charge of the refinery. So they basically give you a kicker on top of the payout that you get for the ore that you hand in. And there's multiple guilds, and they're all competing for different spaces, and some of them are from different nations, and some nations aren't friendly with other nations. So like I know we're all up here breaking down rocks, but if you keep invading my airspace and poaching my mining opportunities, we're going to start a war with you. And so the team is currently engaging in combat with Droam, which is in the Eberron setting. Droam is a monster nation that's ruled by Medusa and has a large population of gargoyles, ogre mage, trolls, different monstrous creatures. And so their whole shtick is kind of like Simic in the Magic the Gathering campaign, that they mutate their monsters to adapt to working in orbit. So like a lot of their mining operation and patrols are actually gargoyles that are elemental creatures that don't need to breathe, and they can eat rock. So they're fantastic miners. Just send a clan of gargoyles to an asteroid, and they'll just chew it up, and whatever's left over is going to be the minerals. So, but when you go to a rock, sometimes there's monsters inside of it, and then you have to send a delving team in to clear the monsters out so it's safe for the miners. So the team is currently delving an asteroid to get rid of monsters so that they can extract the resources from the asteroid before it plummets to the planet. So it's fun. It's a fun campaign. They have multiple territories in orbit that they basically maintain, and every 10 days in the campaign, there's an update, because these asteroids are in orbit around the planet, but everyone's territories are in fixed positions. So as it drifts through your territory, you can tear away at it until it goes out of your territory, and then you have to leave it to somebody else. So you try to take as much of the valuable materials in the rock as you can, and just leave the leftover carbon for somebody else's guild to resolve. So everyone's constantly chewing on each other's rocks. And it was set up that way to, in-game, the orbits were stationary to assure that everyone is motivated to break down the rocks, regardless of how valuable they are, by only allowing you to mine the rocks that are in your territory while they're in your territory. And so each cluster of asteroids are in a territory for 10 days. So the entire campaign paces on 10 days. At the end of these 10 days, all of your all the asteroids in orbit are going to shift one square. And if that asteroid you're working on moves out of your territory because you don't control the square that it's moving into, you're done. You got to let it go. So the team is currently chewing on this asteroid. It turns out that they found some sort of like Underdark temple inside of it. And it's sort of like, oh, there could be all sorts of crazy treasure and stuff inside of here, but they only have it for 10 days, and it goes to Droam. And they're currently in a bunch of territory and trade disputes with Droam because of past shenanigans. So they're like, tell you what, why don't we try doing this? They're going to try to loot the rock for as much interesting treasure, artifacts, whatever it is that they can find inside of it before they have to give it up. So instead of mining it, they're going to leave it intact. Like the miners that were working that asteroid are like, hey, we found this structure, and our contract says that if we find something weird, we stop mining, and you have to resolve it. So that's how a lot of the adventures happen. We do random generation to see, like, is there something weird going on with this rock right now? And the team can only work one rock at a time. So like if they have 8 territories now, and at any given time, 3 or 4 of them have a problem. And so they only have 10 days to resolve the problems inside of all their territories. Otherwise, they lose mining, and they lose resources for that term, that 10-day cycle. So they decide which thing do they think is most interesting as players to participate in, and that becomes their adventure. And then all the other threats get resolved as a single die roll, as an ability check, basically as a skill challenge that the guild takes. So the guild itself, as an NPC entity, has its own stat blocks for ability checks. And so they're like, well, we're having labor disputes, so let's do a charisma check as a guild to see if we can get our workers back up and running, and they can earn inspiration and like they invested money in a better kitchen for their miners, so they're going to have advantage on the next charisma check they need to make when labor disputes come. It's like, but we bought you these wonderful kitchens. Are we not a benevolent company that you're working for? And they can use that for as a ploy to get advantage on their charisma check. But if they don't if there's a military conflict that the players don't want to deal with directly because there's something else that's on their mind, they can leave that to their guild to send paramilitary troops to go resolve the issue. And so that basically like becomes like a dexterity or like a strength ability check to see if they were successful in their intimidation check to drive the enemy away. They weren't? Okay, well, it's going to escalate now. And now the players are like, well, this is getting bad, so this should probably be our next session. Let's wrap up what we're doing on this, and when the next 10-day cycle comes around, we'll make that our priority. And then a whole bunch of other fires crop up. They're like, crap, we have to do this thing, so we're going to have to allocate all these other ideas to the guild to try to resolve. Hopefully the die rolls turn out well. So you're either doing ability checks at the level of a character, a single character interacting as part of a team, or you're scaling out and looking at your guild as a whole, as a single entity. And every time, like each territory is like its own turn. So we have 8 territories, and we have like 3 or 4 people that show up. Each one of them resolves they each have a territory that we then resolve on a round-to-round basis. And like, oh crap, we created complications and in territory H, where we're seeing that there's monsters in that territory now. Are we going to, are we going to like send a mecha team out there to try to attack it, or do we want to try to negotiate with them, or do we want to do some sort of divination thing to see if we can find out what their motives are? They can approach it in different ways. It's like they can make an intelligence check to do like a lore check to see if they know what these monsters are, or and then try to negotiate them with advantage because they know what they want, that sort of thing. So it plays out like at this really high level of vague details, and if they fail, I create a complication with those monsters, and then the players decide if it's escalated to a point where they have to handle it themselves, or can they send a different crew. And you can only use one ability check one time. It's like if a show of force doesn't work to get the monsters out of there, they can't do it again. Now they have to shift their tactics. Well, maybe we can scare them out somehow. So they'll do some sort of like charisma or intelligence themed check with them, and as they continue to fail with whatever the complication there is, they're losing time because that rock is moving through their territory, and if they can't find a solution, they'll just lose it all together, and now it's somebody else's. And if they succeed, they are able to clear up the issue, and then they can send the miners in and extract resources from it. So that's kind of how the game works. I don't remember why I got into that tangent. Oh, it's because of because it moves so quickly, because the entire game just works off of ability checks. The resolution mechanics never change. It's just what's the narrative for why you're making the ability check, and what's the consequence, like what's the narrative for the consequences of failure versus success. And that can change at different scales. Like they've ran individual teams of delvers going in to clear out like this temple thing that was discovered. Oh, that's it. They're going to, instead of mining it, they're not clearing it to mine it, they're clearing it of values, and now they're going to lay traps in it. And then they're going to remove evidence that they had seen it and that were already there. So they're luring Droam into sending delvers in to explore it too. But their plan is, when it gets into Droam's hand, that all the valuable stuff will be gone, and all it'll do is just kill a bunch of their delving teams. So that because they have one territory that they control, and then Droam breaks their territory, and they have another segment on the other side. So it's like this. So like here's the orbit, and the team has an orbit in position here. And then they have more orbit here, like they have a few territories over here in orbit, and they have this territory here. But there's this big block here that's Droam. And so an asteroid goes from this territory into their territory, and it comes back out again into the team's territory. So they can keep it, they have to give it up, and then they can keep it again, and then they have to give it up again because it goes into somebody else's territory. So these rocks that are going through an orbit, like they'll have, like when a rock comes into orbit here, they'll have it for 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, and then they have to give it up to Droam for 10 days, 20 days, and then they get it back for 10 days, and then it's gone again. But there's different bands. So there's these different degrees of orbit, and the rocks come through, and they eventually drop down to the next layer, and then they come through, and if you can't resolve them, they'll drop to the planet and kill people. So we're all hacking away at these rocks, and if they all break up here and that one becomes empty, we get that bonus plus whatever mineral is there. So that's how the campaign works. So they're constantly getting access to rocks that have already been picked at. You don't get fresh rocks until you move out, until you move far out into orbit, right? Like here's 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, 4 degree. They have to purchase each of these territories with resource points. 1 point, 4 points, 9 points, 16 points, 25 points. And like they get like this rock will give them like anywhere from 2 to 5 points. So like it takes them a while to be able to accumulate enough because you have to have all this infrastructure to be able to support a mining operation that spans all of these territories. And they started off with just like 2 territories, and they've been slowly building their guild up to become larger and more influential. And as they do, they piss off more people. And now they're effectively like, they're basically like second tier, right? So like level 7, effectively level 7. And they're basically starting a war with Droam, who's their neighbor. It's awesome. It's super fun. I'll eventually build a Kickstarter out of this, but the Asteroid Belt campaign is just what they requested. Like, we want to do Eberron Spelljammer stuff, and it's like, cool. Let me build that out for you. So this is the campaign that we came up with, and it's super low in it, like very low commitment. People can drop in and drop out. They build new characters all the time when they have a new challenge. If they don't think the characters they have are perfect for it, they'll roll up new characters that are specialized in the task that they're trying to achieve. So they have different teams that are running around. And so it's kind of a West March sort of feel with multiple players, with multiple characters and different teams achieving different goals. So, and I've talked about it a number of times. If you check out the Eberron Spelljammer live stream playlist that I have, you'll see how I built the campaign, and I've done various updates to like where the narrative of the game has gone to. Boy, I sure am monologuing a lot today, huh? I don't think I have a goal today other than finishing this picture, and I've got like 40 minutes to do it. So I think I'm just kind of rambling. I'm gonna hit save here. I pulled this out of the window. It's impossible to dock these things once you open them. So I'm gonna relaunch it and catch up on text. What? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's Eberron. I don't know if you know the Eberron setting, but the Underdark is called Kyber. It's a mythic dungeon that spans the space between normal reality and order of society at the surface. And as you go in deeper into Kyber, it creates aberrations and monsters. And like the further down you go, the more insane the world gets until you enter the outer planes of madness in Eberron, right? And so, yeah, thanks a lot, man, because I'm really good at rambling. Hey, Saz. Yeah, it'll be a Kickstarter eventually, but this one is a Spelljammer campaign. So when you get a rock, so in the Eberron campaign, in the Eberron world, when you go into the Underdark, it becomes madness over time in a mythic dungeon. The way that this works is that these asteroids that are coming at them, they have Kyber inside of each of them too. So if an asteroid is larger, like a 50-mile asteroid coming at you, that's basically a 50-mile block of Underdark that if your team starts to crack open the rock, there's a higher and higher, like the more valuable the material is, like mithril and bieshk and platinum, or like gems, the higher value the resource in the rock, the higher chance there is of there being monsters spawning in that area to protect the wealth of it in a very old school D&D style sort of Ludo narrative there. And so the team wants the more valuable rocks because they get more resource points for them, but the monsters are more difficult, so they have to be higher level. And because these more valuable rocks yield more resources, more powerful guilds that can afford to take on larger threats like this purchase territories that's further out in orbit, so that the rocks that are coming in haven't been picked at yet. So they get basically like, oh my God, there's like diamonds in there. There's probably gonna be like a CR13 threat. We need to send in our Ultramarines to figure that out. And so as the team levels up, they run into bigger challenges, which allows them to overcome and exploit more valuable materials. So they move further out in orbit, so they have a larger supply chain. So the whole level up process of their guild coincides with the higher level of power that the characters are capable of producing to overcome larger scale threats that they find in more valuable rocks as they move further out in orbit. But that's just one style of campaign, using this ability check role-playing game that we've developed. When I start, I won't start playtesting that. Sorry, let me word that differently. It'll probably be ready for general playtesting with other teams, I reckon, maybe around April. So that's when I'll start introducing like the core mechanics of the game to my Discord channel. And if people are interested in playtesting it, we can do a session 0 to decide like what kind of a game we want to play. Because like with this style of guild advancement as like a character, you can build campaign themes around the idea of the guild is the most important thing, and the players are creating character teams to deal with different threats and issues that the guild comes up with. So I chose an asteroid belt mining campaign specifically because it said we want to play Spelljammer. It's like, okay, what's a cool Spelljammer campaign I can come up with like this? And that's what we came up with, and we basically built it together. But I could do like a Wild West setting where your teams are basically a posse of deputies, and so the core of the territory is the town that you're in charge of. And then there's outlying community of farms that could be attacked by like goblin raiders, or there could be like a copper mine in the mountains. So you'll have these different territories that surround the city that provide different resources to the community, and your job is to be an outrider to make sure that everything in the surrounding communities stays safe. So in that sense, you could have like a weird West fantasy Western campaign, or like make it like Rifts, where it's after the bomb and it's like post-apocalyptic, like Bartertown becomes like from Mad Max Bartertown. Your players run Bartertown, and now there's like mutants that are trying to come in and attack your pig farm, for instance. Now you got to defend that, so you can still get methane. Like you get methane from the pigs, and the methane you can convert into gas that powers your trucks, so you can go have road wars against these rival gangs that are trying to steal your resources. Very Mad Max style Furiosa stuff. So I could very easily build a campaign around that, in which your team are building like war bands and rigging crews to run these semis across the desert to transport petrol from like from one community to another, and your goal is to survive the wastelands in this Mad Max style. And so you expand your territories, you expand your patrols, your motorcycle scouts, your semi crews. You build a maggot farm so you can start providing protein to your war boys, and like that would be a very easy campaign theme to build off, but it'd still be using the same ability check system. It's just now going to be in a Mad Max post-apocalyptic theme instead of a Eberron Spelljammer theme, or like a Wild West theme, however we want to go with that. We could do like a pirate campaign where your guild is your boat. And as your quote-unquote guild advances, maybe you can commandeer additional ships and create multiple lines where you're privateering. Like you could rent out your pirating services to warring nations and become privateers to attack their enemies. And so that would like advance like your military industry and your reputation as dangerous pirates to be around, so people will surrender to you more swiftly when you raid them for their cargo. So there's a lot of different ways you can build a campaign like this. It's just a matter of, you know, what theme do you want, and how do we structure it, which is something that structuring campaigns, like one of my greatest joys as a DM is to build from, like, to go into a game knowing that we're going to play a game, right? And then figuring out what kind of a game we want to play, and then building the world from the ground up based on the input that the players give. This is the kind of game, these are the kind of experiences that we want, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, let's build a world, a campaign setting that's going to reinforce those ideas and reward you for pursuing those types of ideas, whatever they are. And so that's how I build all my campaigns are unique to the players at the table, because I'm custom building the setting around, like I said, like what they defined as their goals. It's like the groundhog, like the 20 level time travel campaign that I ran before this one. That was because the players are like, we've never played D&D before, so we want the whole thing. We want a campaign from level 1 to 20. We want to have character arcs progressing through an epic quest, but we don't want to die. We want the same characters to be able to go through the entire story, be threatened during the story, so combat's important and there's consequences, but at the same time, we want the same characters to go from level 1 to 20 and be there at the end. So I'm like, okay, well, the only way that makes sense to me is if you're like, your characters are like somehow immortal or something. And for a first-time campaign, running gods just didn't seem right. So instead, I came up with a time loop, like a Groundhog Day campaign, where whenever one character would die, they would all die, and then like they would all reset their day to the beginning. So everyone, the whole theme was around, it doesn't matter how awesome you are, if the rogue gets killed, we all reset. So the whole team was built around protecting each other from getting killed. And the level of camaraderie that developed out of that it's pretty fucking amazing. So, like, we're all thick as thieves friends now. It's really fucking cool. And, but that's the result of the campaign being built around, if one of us fails, we all fail and have to start over again. So what can we do as a team to help guarantee our success? And this is the kind of shit that corporations like to hear their players doing, their employees doing. So it's been a really, really cool experience to be doing this with my coworkers. But then that campaign eventually completed. They got the 20th level. They saved the world. They got out of their time loop campaign, and the campaign ended. And they're like, what's next? It's like, well, this has become something that is known about inside the company, and other people are interested. So let's build a drop-in, drop-out Westmarch style campaign that's built around a theme of the adventure will change every week, your priorities will change, and the players will change depending on who's available. So it's a very, like, this 10-day episode sort of thing where, like, the characters literally have 10 days to resolve whatever the problem is before it becomes somebody else's problem. So if you're trying to achieve something here, you better figure out how to do it pretty quickly. And that's the theme, that's the campaign that we've been running since February, and so far it's going really well. We're about to add on a couple more players. I'm still going to limit it to once per week, but we should have a large enough roster that we should consistently have like 4 or 5 players every time, and that's where we wanted to get to. So it's going really well. I am rambling. Sorry about that. What's up? Oh, cool. Rambling. That feels pretty good so far. I feel like I want to come into here like this and grab that, and then let's do some pages, and then drop that down a bit. So I still need to finish all the Color Mana books and update the Spelljammer stuff. I don't know if I'll ever be done with Spelljammer and Magic the Gathering content, because I love those IPs so much. But I will eventually have to like this idea that this type of a campaign I'm talking about, that will eventually be a Kickstarter project that I'll put out. It's based on ability checks, but there's so many types of D20 games that use ability checks. It's kind of universal. I just have to, like, you can use this style of game for Pathfinder, any version of D&D, Cypher system, Savage Worlds, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Shadow Dark. All these different types of games can use this style with the rules, with this ability check system that I'm actually discussing. Because, like, when you go, like, at the guild level, it's just an ability check. One ability check per territory per 10 days. The team has 8 territories. They basically have 8 ability checks or skill challenges. Each territory has its own skill challenge of finding out what's going on. Is it something that needs to be dealt with? Can you deal with it? And what was the results of attempting to deal with it? Like, that's basically like a 4 or 5 roll skill challenge. And you have 8 territories, so there's 8 of those. And each player... it changes each player. Everyone makes a die roll, so we all go through all the different territories and resolve all the problems. And at the end of all the die rolls, we have an idea of, like, what's going on, what do we need to deal with, and then as we go through that process, they're already talking to each other about, like, what do they think they can get out of that, or, like, what potential do they see from that, what do they want to prioritize, and by the end of the die rolls, they're like, yeah, we're going to go do that, and they already know what they want to do. And they're already like, what characters do we have built already that can deal with that? I don't have one. I want to build a new character. Awesome. We'll pair that guy with that other dude that you have, blah, blah, blah. And we'll build out that team, and then they'll attack the problem next week. And it'll take anywhere from 2 to 5 sessions for them to resolve whatever the challenge of the day is. And at that point, you know, the world turns and all the asteroids orbit, and they get the resources, and they get new challenges. And so in that manner, they're constantly having a new adventure handed to them on a weekly basis as an episode. And they just resolve it the best that they can before moving on to the next thing. And that is a style of campaign that I have never ran before, that evolved from the need for us, like, what's your session 0? What do we need to do? We need a West March campaign where people can drop in, drop out with very minimal tech level to keep it simple so that it's inviting for new co-workers to come in and hang out and play. So it's inclusive, right? So there's very little obstacle to getting started. Here's a 20-sided die. Here's your character. It has 6 stats on it, your ability scores. Tell me what you rolled. And then we start just going into, like, what do you want to do about that? And then, like, in no time, we've indoctrinated a new player. Like, it takes 15 minutes to get them, like, locked into the campaign and asking what's next. Or it bounces off of them, like, hey, thanks a lot. They eat their sandwich and, you know, and they're done. So people can just, like, sit and watch and listen and peanut gallery with us as we're doing stuff. And it used to be live in the office, but we're all remote workers now. So we tune in on Zoom and run our game, and then we have, like, our weekly in-office stuff. So we're trying to recruit people while we're in office to see if we can get some more people to show up. It's like, oh, we're only having, like, 3 people showing up right now. We need to recruit more people. So we'll try to find, like, who's interested. So we actively hunt down coworkers to have them join us. It's been a pretty amazing experience. But so when I build the Kickstarter for this, it'll be the core mechanics of the rules itself, and then, like, what are different campaigns? Like, how can we build different campaigns using this method to have different systems? So it's, in that sense, it's almost like a GURPS-like space, or like Fate, where it's building an engine and then showing you how you can use that engine to execute different fantasies, or stories. This is kind of the same thing. So it's going to be, it is by far my best work. I am absolutely thrilled with how this system has turned out and how fluid and easy it is. It's the kind of, it's such a hard turn from, like, how mechanical all my color mana stuff is, and the spell point, like the martial power stuff that I'm doing. It's super crunchy tech, and like, you can express really interesting characters with the tech crunch that's inside of those games. But this ability check system is it's like the exact opposite. It's super light. But like if you were playing Pathfinder, you could use this guild system as a template to build the theme of your campaign. And when your team chooses an adventure, that's when you pull out your Pathfinder characters, because Pathfinder uses skill checks just like everything else does. So the language still works. It's still logical inside the game system. Like you could do that with Pathfinder. It's just when your team decides which adventure they want, now you're going into like hard crunch Pathfinder stuff, and that's where your adventure comes from. So anyway, that's the idea. That's the dream. To be able to it basically builds campaign background themes that auto-generate adventure hooks for your characters on a West March weekly episode-based campaign, which is something I think people will value more and more as our time gets further and further segmented. Like if you have a 2-hour, I do this with a 1 hour per week game. If I had like a 3-hour block or like a 2-hour game, like there's just that much more I could do with it because I'll have that much more time. But as a 1 hour game, like we can go through, like a good game will go through 20 rounds. Like everyone has like anywhere from like 5 to 10 turns, everyone. And that's in an hour. So that's like most rounds, like most people's turns only take a minute. Or if they have to deliberate something, maybe 3. But it's designed to be fast. 1 die roll. What did that do? How do we respond? What do we do? How do we respond? What do we do? Die roll, die roll, die roll, die roll. And then deal with consequences, and then die roll, die roll, die roll, die roll. It's very fast. Very, very fast. And I absolutely love that. But again, this was born from necessity, because of like, what do we need to do to make this campaign work for more people? And these were the solutions that we came up with. That's what I love. It's all built off the 5e game engine. 5e is by far my favorite game engine because it allows you to build like this. Like you can kit bash the fuck out of 5e D&D way more than you can 3e. It's like it's built for kit bashing. And it's like that is they hinted at that when they were first building the engine back in 2000, or sorry, back in 2014 before it came out. Like they were trying to build a game system that would allow you to like pull levers to make it more or less complicated, and they never got around to fulfilling that promise of having these different scales of difficulty or like different depths of complication. And like if I was working for Wizards of the Coast, this is the kind of like super system light ideas that I would come to the table with. Like you could like in Descent into Avernus, the team ended up taking over Elturel, and they basically took over being the mayor of Elturel while it was in hell. They had the resources. They had been as characters. They've been gathering the resources and making alliances with all these different factions inside of Avernus in the game campaign setting, and they basically collected them together into a factioned army to defend the city from demon invasion, and they were successful at it. So then as they continue to scale up and defend the city from greater demonic blood war threats, they had more and more allies to hold the line against the demons. And that's where this idea came from in that Elturel campaign. And then it's just continued to evolve on my workbench since then. And then I saw the opportunity with my coworkers to explore it further. I'm like, this will do. This is something we can use. So pretty exciting. This is the kind of shit that I'll be building. I mean, I'll be building this out for the next few years. I'm not ready to do Kickstarters. I have a very, very small YouTube audience. You know, I don't get a ton of sales. My Discord is still small. My Patreon is still small. The muses that feed me inspiration are baby stepping me into whatever it is that they have planned for me. Here's the thing about the muses of Greek legend, right? These are entities that that inspire humans to create things, but they can't directly experience the joy of and the emotion of creation. They can inspire you to have ideas, but they can't appreciate the emotional fulfillment of that inspiration. So they basically have to like sidekick with an artist. And by creating that pact, as it were, I'm going to feed you information, and as a result of it, I get the emotional. The muse gets the emotional kick from discovery of like, wow, this thing actually works, and the excitement of discovery that their immortal selves can't really experience. So that's why they feed these ideas of inspiration to mortal artists who have the capacity to feel emotions, and it becomes an exotic treat to these eternal beings that feed these ideas to humanity over the years. So once you understand that relationship, it's like, cool, what do you guys want to guide me to next? And they'll take you to the emotional experience that they want you to have, that they want to have through the art that you create. So you can create these alliances inside of yourself with your own creativity to be able to unlock these ideas for yourself, whether you're a DM or an artist or like you're in construction, you're trying to figure out how to do something like this. This is that creative energy that's inside of all of us that we can gain access to. You know, if you're into that sort of thing. But my pact has it so that my muse will basically do the artwork for me. And my job is to turn off my brain and just let it talk. So I don't know what I'm going to talk about until I talk about it. And sometimes I don't talk about anything, but sometimes I'm being fed very specific lines of information that I end up speaking about. And other times the muse just likes to sit back and listen to me be excited about my projects, because that's the only way that she can feel excitement is through the excitement that I have about the ideas that she feeds me. So that's why I end up talking about this stuff a lot when I'm streaming, because I really can just turn off my brain and let her push pixels for me while she gets to enjoy listening to me talk about how excited I am about the pixels she's pushing. It becomes a mutually beneficial relationship. So it's weird, but that's reality. It's a type of reality. It's one that you can access yourself, and one that I makes my life feel very magical. But I guess Catholics would call them cherubs. Greeks called them muses. But they're sparks of sentience that have limited capacity in the material world. That they look for people that are open to assisting that expression. All they want to do is create and expand. And so when they can form mutually beneficial relationships, they propel you. They keep you fed with ideas, and they allow you to keep coming back to the table. They prevent burnout. You know, if you want to believe in those sort of things, it doesn't hurt to believe in that sort of stuff. But if it doesn't do anything for you, it's just a waste of time. But that is absolutely how my world paradigm works. Is built around that. And this is about done, which is great because I'm almost out of time. I generally like how this piece turned out. There's a journal in the adventure that has a timestamp for all the different things that are happening that provide evidence to the team about what their next goals are, and so the team can arrive at this village, and they either get there and they can have a conversation with Jalen and different people to find out all this stuff, or you get there and the villagers are all dead because undead attacked. And if that's the case, then Jalen's journal that they're holding provides all of the information that Jalen would provide to the team if they were actually having a conversation. And the bullet points of the conversation are outlined in the journal, so the journal becomes self-referential, and that's a handout that's provided with it. So Jalen, being represented with this journal, you will have access to this journal as players to be able to reference the different. I mean, it's only basically like a page worth of events, but they are events that are narratively inserted inside of this journal, along with like grain counts and stuff like that, and like how many pigs do we have in the community, small scale stuff like that, that if the team decides to settle here after the adventure, they could use to build Dominion guild style gameplay like I've been talking about, because they'll know what the resources are in the community to be able to start allocating towards growing the farming communities and defending it from undead in the forest. So literally every campaign that I run can be rebuilt into this Dominion style of taking responsibility of a territory and making it grow. And that's something I think that is something that a lot of players end up valuing. They didn't know, like a lot of them never experienced stuff like that. And once they start getting into that kind of a campaign, like there's a real sense of ownership that you feel. Like when your team gets a boat. Spelljammer's like this in particular, but like if you get like a pirate boat or like a fortress or something, like characters take ownership of that. Players take ownership of that stuff pretty quickly, and they start to geek out about the idea of like, oh, what can we do with this? Like if this is a real pirate ship, what kind of adventures can we go on? It's like I want to encourage that. And so all of my games that I run as a DM end up having that Dominion style option available to be able to build out into building empire or like a trade route or becoming like the top temple in Waterdeep or whatever your objectives are. We can build a Dominion style of game around that, and that's the kind of games I love to run. So that's where all this is coming from. Let's grab that and just break in there just a touch. I think I'm done though. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's not. I don't think it's as good as the sheriff was, but it's still pretty good. I'm happy with this. Take the whole piece. I'm gonna ticket attack. Just center it up, and there we go. That's a good piece. We're gonna call that. There, and here's the black and white version. Let's fix their face. There. I see text. What's up? Hey, thanks. Blurp, and then blump. There you go. Back. It's good enough. I mean, it's just a token. You know, it's just an NPC token that's going to get dropped onto a map and is going to occupy a space inside of the document, so that when the DM is introduced to who the characters in the town are, they'll have these tokens corresponding with who those people are and like where they're in the entry. It's like, here's the illustration of that character. Here's their token in the zip file that you get when you buy the adventure. So all the stuff, all the maps and all the characters that are illustrations inside of the adventure are tokens that you'll have access to in the virtual tabletop. Or if you're going to purchase this for printing, all the maps and the tokens are line art. So you can use a laser printer and I'll just have them stacked up on a sheet, like all these like little 1-inch tokens. I'll just have them on a page. So you can just print off one page and have all your tokens. So it's a lot of production work, but it's worth it. So there's that. Here's our color. I'm going to seal this up and put a lock on it. I'm going to unlock it for a hot second. No, I think I'm okay with that. It's it has a let's see there and then here. Nah, the styles match. They feel good together. I'm good with that. This has simpler language, simpler line art language, but it has more contrast and color saturation in general. I think that works. And this is more monochrome, more dour. Look, there's a lot less. Like in the RGB scale up here, the separation of RG and B is far less throughout this piece. It's a lower saturation, which is sensible for a dwarf, as opposed to Jalen here. You can see it has a wider dip on its coloring. So that makes sense. More vibrant personality, slightly brighter colors, more dour personality of a dwarf, little muted colors. Theoretically, I'm theorizing here. I don't actually see the colors. I just know what the RGB scale does. So that's where my color clue comes in. But those are done. So, and we already did like super basic villager. And then we have these additional villagers that we're going to do similar treatment with. And that these are just generic town folk that you can talk to that just become tokens for you to interact with as you kick around town. You know, they can get attacked by zombies and shit. So we'll flesh those all out too. And I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to put a lock on her. And I'm really happy with him. I mean, these are like super basic NPC, like nobody's like, you are not adventuring heroes. Yeah. So when we come back on Monday, we're going to color and flesh out all these dudes. And so we have those 4 NPCs to finish, and then those will all be done. And then we're going to do some alchemists that are working on different in the underground facility, making different alchemical properties out of the manifest zone. And we're going to do a couple lumberjacks. We're going to do some scouts and assassins. And then we'll be done. So I'm going to keep doing that. And then once we get done with those tokens, that'll probably be another couple weeks of token building. And once that's done, the layouts and the book will be done. So we'll finish the tokens and we'll open up the document, and then we'll start dropping everybody into their position inside of the book. And whatever gaps are left over, that's where we'll do additional page art to directly just start painting directly on the page, whatever makes sense for whatever's on that page. So that's the process. If you think that stuff is cool, definitely like, subscribe, and stick around, because we'll be doing this for another number of months. And then we'll continue developing Barbarian today at lunch. That'll be at 2 o'clock here in Seattle. It's now almost 8. So if I can drop in by 1:30, I will, but I don't guarantee that I'm going to be able to. So I think 2 o'clock is going to be a good point for me. 2 o'clock Seattle, that'll be 5 o'clock on the East Coast. We'll be back. We'll have an hour or so to continue building out the Barbarians subclasses, and then Saturday morning tomorrow we'll jump back in, finish off Barbarian, dive back, get into Fighter, and we'll see if we can get through Fighter into Monk before the day ends. I'll be off stream. I'll come back Monday morning. We'll keep working on all this stuff. I'll be back Monday night to work on Monks, and then maybe into Rogues, and then we'll get into Ranger and Paladin after that. Then we'll get done with Warlock, and then we'll do Artificer. And then that'll wrap up all of the updates for martial powers. We'll be able to potentially get back into playtesting. I'm going to let it breathe a little bit. I don't think I'm going to rush through it, but I'm also going to do color mana stuff. So by the end of October, I should have a new campaign up and running for the martial power playtesting at level 3. And I'm going to change up the campaign for that. So we'll be doing some campaign building here online as well. So that's what I got heading up. So I'll see you guys soon. Cheers. Thanks for hanging out.